On November 22nd, 1963, the President of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, was assassinated in a motorcade in Dallas, Texas. The next few days were very shocking for the nation, and in this video I'm going to be showing the locations of his funeral here in Washington, D.C. The assassination of President Kennedy is still something people talk about, and we still feel the shock and sadness of the event over 50 years later. I've always been fascinated with President Kennedy. I believe he was a good, idealistic man who could have accomplished much more had he lived and had a second term as president. At the time, he was just 45 years old. He was in an open limousine sitting next to his wife Jackie in Dallas, Texas, when he got shot by a sniper, one shot hitting him in the head and literally blowing off part of his head. Later that day, the body was brought back to Washington, D.C., and after an autopsy at Bethesda Medical Center, it was brought here to the White House in the dark early morning hours of November 23rd.
There was a father with a little boy.
The casket was placed in the East Room to lay in state, as had been tradition. This is where the caskets of all the presidents who have died in office have laid, including Lincoln and Roosevelt. On Saturday, November 23rd, family members, cabinet members, congressmen, Supreme Court justices, and other government and military leaders went to the White House. That was then the residence of President Lyndon B. Johnson. Unfortunately, the White House denied my application to get inside the White House and get pictures of the East Room, so sorry I did not get to go in there.
It was no more. So she took a ring from her finger and placed it in his hand, kissed him, and closed the lid of the coffin.
On Sunday, November 24th, the casket was transported to the United States Capitol to lie in state in the Rotunda.
We are bound to feel shattered and helpless in the face of our loss. This is but natural, but as the first bitter pangs of our incredulous grief begins to pass, we must thank God that we were privileged, however briefly, to have had this great man for our president. For he has now taken his place among the great figures of world history.
A massive military parade preceded the funeral bier down Pennsylvania Avenue. A little over 1,000 days earlier, he went down this avenue after being sworn in as the 35th President of the United States. A service was held in the Rotunda. This is a tradition that had happened for few other presidents and government leaders. These are illegal photos I took of the Lincoln catafalque, which was built to hold Lincoln's casket and was also used for Kennedy's. The rotunda was then opened to the public for the ensuing 18 hours, and about 250,000 people waited in the cold for hours and crowded through the rotunda all throughout the night. On Monday, November 25th, the casket was removed from the Capitol, for a procession back to the White House down Pennsylvania Avenue. Dignitaries from every nation except China had gathered at the White House for a walking procession to St. Matthew's Cathedral that was pushed by Jackie against Secret Service wands. This made them absolutely terrified. Jackie handled this funeral with unbelievable grace. She had most of the ideas for this elaborate funeral in a very short and miserable time, basing it off Lincoln's funeral.
The procession turned right here onto Rhode Island Avenue, where they reached St. Matthew's Cathedral.
As President Kennedy was the first Roman Catholic president, the funeral mass was held at DC's Catholic Cathedral of St. Matthew the Apostle, where he went several times as president. The cathedral was built in 1913 and is one of the most beautiful cathedrals I've ever been in. The Mass was led by Boston's Cardinal Cushing, a friend of the Kennedy family. After the service was finished, the casket was removed, and the march to Arlington National Cemetery had begun. Passing the Lincoln Memorial and crossing over the Memorial Bridge. Here I'm tracing the exact route to the grave site in Arlington National Cemetery. Jackie had selected him to be buried in Arlington. The cemetery has really only become so well known since President Kennedy was buried here. Where Kennedy is currently buried is not the spot where he was buried in 1963. He had a temporary grave and eternal flame until 1967. He was reinterred a few feet away so that the elaborate gravesite existing today could be built. I guess the original site was around here, but I don't have any information of where it actually was. He was given full military honors, a 21 jet flyover, and Air Force One flyover, along with the Catholic burial service by Cardinal Cushing. President Charles de Gaulle of France in the center. The Eternal Flame was Jackie's idea. She appreciated the one at the Arc de Triomphe in Paris and thought it a symbolic, fitting tribute to him. She was also inspired by the novel The Candle in the Wind, which was an inspiration for Camelot. Now she's laid to rest with him and their 2 children who did not survive. watch over the hill in Arlington, over the Lincoln Memorial, and the nation's capital. John F. Kennedy said in his inaugural address, "The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it, and the glow from the fire can truly light the world."